The large meeting room on the Galactic Council ship Harmonious Accord buzzed with strange sounds. 12 different alien species sat around a massive round table. They spoke in their own languages, but small devices translated everything into sounds each could understand. Ambassador Tejo took a deep breath. As Earth's main diplomat, he carried a heavy weight on his shoulders. This meeting would decide if humans could join the galactic community or remain alone in space. "It is time to begin," announced Chief Counselor Bal, his voice deep and rumbling. Bal stood nearly 7 feet tall. His skin was pale blue with patches of silver. 4 arms emerged from his torso, each ending in hands with 6 long fingers. When he spoke, small lights flashed across his throat. "We welcome the representatives from planet Earth," Bal continued. "Today marks a historic moment. Your species has finally developed the technology to reach beyond your solar system. The Galactic Council has watched your progress with great interest." Tejo bowed slightly. "Thank you for this honor. Earth is excited to join the galactic community and learn from your wisdom." Around the table, several aliens made sounds that the translator identified as laughter. It was not friendly laughter. A small green alien with large oval eyes spoke. Next. "Tell us, human, does your species still fight wars among yourselves over invisible boundaries and ancient beliefs?" Tejo kept his face calm. "Earth has made great progress toward peace. We still have disagreements, but we work to solve them through talking, not fighting." "How quaint," said another alien, this one covered in feathers of deep purple. "Perhaps, in another 1,000 years, you might reach a reasonable level of civilization." Chief Counselor Bal raised one of his hands. "We did not invite the humans here to mock them. They have passed the minimum requirements for first contact. Now we must discuss their entrance into our community." Bal pressed a button, and a floating screen appeared in the center of the room. It showed a book so thick that Tejo could not believe his eyes. "This is the Galactic Code of Conduct," Bal explained. "It contains 12,347 regulations that govern all interactions between species. It covers trade, communication, territory, technology sharing, and proper behavior. Every member of the Galactic Council must follow this code without exception." A copy of the code appeared on the screen in front of Tejo. As he scrolled through the first few pages, his heart sank. The rules were incredibly detailed and often made little sense. One rule stated that all official meetings must begin with participants facing the galactic core, while another said that no species could export more than they import from any other species in a single cycle. "I would like time to review this document with our legal experts," Tejo said carefully. Some of these rules seem difficult to apply to Earth's situation. The room erupted in laughter. Even Chief Counselor Bal's throat lights flashed in amusement. "Review? Legal experts?" The purple-feathered alien shook with laughter. "The code is not up for review. It is the result of 10,000 years of galactic wisdom. Your primitive legal systems could not possibly understand its complexity." Tejo frowned. "With respect, if we are to follow these rules, we must first understand them. For example, Regulation 342 states that no species may use more than 0.01% of their star's energy. Earth already uses more than that amount." "Then you will need to reduce your energy use," said Bal simply. "That would cause massive problems for our people," Tejo argued. "And Regulation 897 says we must increase our energy production by 5% each cycle to maintain membership." The council members looked at each other. Finally, a small alien with skin like flowing water spoke up. "Young species always find the code confusing at first, but you will learn to navigate its wisdom. We have all managed to follow it." Tejo scrolled further through the document. Regulation 1256 says we must share all our military technology with the Council, but Regulation 1257 says we cannot possess military technology beyond level 3. Earth is already at level 4 according to your scale. Chief Counselor Bal's lights dimmed slightly. "You ask too many questions, human. The code is not to be questioned. It is to be followed." A new voice joined the conversation. It belonged to Vice Counselor Min-ji, the only alien with Korean heritage. Her species had interbred with humans centuries ago during a secret visit to Earth. "Perhaps we should give Earth time to study the code," she suggested. It is complex, and their society is different from ours. Impossible, said Bal firmly. All new members must accept the code immediately. This is how it has always been. Teho tried a different approach. Could you explain how other species have dealt with these contradictions? It would help us understand how to proceed. The purple-feathered alien laughed again. Contradictions? There are no contradictions in the code. Your primitive mind simply cannot grasp its complexity. For the next 2 hours, Teho pointed out more problems with the code. Each time the council dismissed his concerns or laughed at his simple understanding. As the meeting progressed, he realized something important. None of the council members could explain how they followed all these rules either. Finally, Chief Counselor Bal raised all 4 hands to silence the room. Enough discussion. Earth has 7 days to accept the entire code without changes. If you refuse, Earth will be marked as a primitive zone. No species will be allowed to trade with you or share technology with you. You will be alone in the galaxy. Teho stood up straight. That is not enough time to even read the entire document, let alone implement it. That is not our concern, said Bal coldly. 7 days. That is our offer. The meeting ended abruptly. Teho and his team returned to their quarters, on the ship feeling defeated. What do we do now? Asked his assistant Ji-sun. We can't possibly agree to these terms, but we can't afford to be isolated either. Teho stared out the viewport at the stars. I don't think they follow all these rules themselves. Did you notice how they avoided answering my questions about the contradictions? So it's a power play, Ji-sun said. They want to keep us under their control by forcing us to follow rules they can selectively enforce. Teho nodded slowly. Exactly, and we need someone who understands that kind of game. He pressed a button on his communication device. After a moment, the face of the Earth Defense Force commander appeared on the screen. Ambassador, the commander said. How did the meeting go? Not well, Teho replied. They've given us an impossible task with an impossible deadline. We need someone who understands impossible rules. He paused, then added, We need your specialist. The commander's expression grew serious. Are you sure? He's not exactly a diplomat. Diplomacy has failed. We need someone who can beat them at their own game. The commander nodded. I'll send him immediately. Staff Sergeant Han Gil will arrive in 3 days. As the communication ended, Ji-sun looked worried. A soldier? Against 12 advanced alien species? Teho smiled for the first time that day. Not just any soldier. Han Gil is known for something special in the Earth Defense Force. What's that? Finding loopholes in the rulebook. And if I'm right about the Galactic Code, it's nothing but loopholes. As they prepared to leave the meeting room, Teho noticed Vice Counselor Min-ji watching him with curious eyes. She approached quietly. You are wiser than the others think, she whispered. But be careful. The council does not like those who question too much. Before Teho could respond, she walked away, leaving him with even more questions. In 3 days, Earth would make its stand. Not with weapons or technology, but with something the aliens clearly didn't expect from humans. The ability to play by the rules while breaking them at the same time. 3 days passed quickly aboard the Harmonious Accord. Ambassador Teho spent every waking hour studying the Galactic Code, finding more and more problems with each page he read. On the morning of the 3rd day, a small Earth shuttle docked with the massive alien ship. Teho and Ji-sun waited at the airlock, both nervous and hopeful. The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss. Staff Sergeant Han Gil stepped through, dressed in the dark blue uniform of the Earth Defense Force. He was not tall, but he stood straight and confident. His short black hair was neatly trimmed, and his face showed no emotion. Ambassador, Han Gil said, giving a perfect salute. Staff Sergeant Han Gil reporting as ordered. Teho returned the salute. Thank you for coming, Sergeant. The situation is worse than we thought. As they walked through the alien ship's wide corridors, Teho explained everything that had happened. Han Gil listened without interrupting, his eyes taking in every detail of their surroundings. So they gave us 7 days to accept rules that nobody can actually follow. Han Gil finally asked when Teho finished. Exactly. and we're down to 4 days now. They reached the human quarters, a small section of the ship set aside for the Earth delegation. Once inside, Hangil placed a small device on the table and pressed a button. A soft buzzing filled the room. Anti-listening device, he explained. Now we can talk freely. Jisun looked surprised. You think they're spying on us? I assume everyone is spying on everyone. Hangil said simply. That's why I'm still alive after 15 years in service. He sat down and looked at the digital copy of the Galactic code on the table screen. Show me the worst contradictions you've found. For the next 2 hours, Tai-Ho showed Hangil dozens of rules that directly conflicted with each other. The sergeant took notes, his face revealing nothing. I've seen this before, Hangil finally said. Tai-Ho looked up in surprise. You've seen the Galactic code before? Hangil shook his head. No, but I've seen this technique. It's how corrupt officers control their soldiers. Write so many rules that everyone is always breaking at least one. Then you can punish anyone, anytime, by selectively enforcing whichever rule they've broken. That's exactly what I suspected, Tai-Ho said, feeling relief that someone else saw it too. Hangil stood up and began pacing the room. The question is why? Why create a system that nobody can actually follow? Control, Jisun suggested. The older species get to decide which rules to enforce against newer members. Maybe, Hangil said, but I think there's more to it. He turned to Tai-Ho. I need to meet with the council. Alone. Tai-Ho looked worried. They don't take well to questioning, and they certainly won't respect a soldier. Hangil smiled slightly. Let me worry about that. Can you arrange a meeting? I can try. What's your plan? I'm going to ask questions they don't want to answer. The council chamber looked even larger with only 13 beings in it, Hangil and the 12 alien representatives. Chief Counselor. Bal sat at the head of the table, all 4 of his arms resting in front of him. The Earth sends a soldier to discuss diplomacy? Bal said, the lights on his throat pulsing with amusement. How typical of your primitive species. Hangil stood at perfect attention. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, counselors. I have reviewed your code of conduct and have a few questions. The purple-feathered alien that had mocked Tai-Ho spoke up. More questions? Your ambassador already wasted our time with questions. These are different questions, Hangil said calmly. For example, when was the last time the council was at war? The question seemed to catch the aliens by surprise. They looked at each other in confusion. The council does not engage in war, Bal finally said. We have evolved beyond such primitive behaviors. Interesting, Hangil said. Then why do regulations 3405 through 3589 deal with wartime procedures and protocols? Silence filled the room. Vice Chancellor Minji leaned forward slightly, her eyes fixed on Hangil with new interest. Those are historical provisions, another alien said. From the early days of the council. I see. Hangil nodded. And when was the last time any species was punished for violating the code? More uncomfortable silence followed. The Zelphod species was sanctioned 50 cycles ago, Bal finally admitted. For which violation? They exceeded their allocated resource usage in the Deneb sector. Hangil took out a small device and checked some notes. According to Regulation 7219, resource usage limits can be exceeded if a species is experiencing population growth above 0.5% per cycle. The Zelphod population was growing at 0.7% at that time. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Bal's throat lights flashed rapidly. How do you know the Zelphod growth rate? He demanded. I read the public records during my trip here, Hangil answered, just like I read about the 17 other species that were sanctioned in the past 100 cycles. Every single one had valid exceptions they could have used, according to your own code. He walked slowly around the table, looking at each council member. My next question, has any member of the original council ever been sanctioned for a violation? This line of questioning is inappropriate, Bal said, standing up. You were invited here to discuss Earth's acceptance of the code, not to question its application. Hangil stopped walking. With respect, Counselor, I am discussing Earth's acceptance. We cannot accept rules that are enforced selectively. Then Earth will remain isolated, the purple-feathered alien said. The galaxy will continue without you. Before you make that decision, Hangil said, I have one more question. How many of you have actually read the entire code? The question hung in the air. None of the council members spoke. Finally, Vice Chancellor Minji broke the silence. I have read approximately 60% of the current version. And you, Chief Counselor? Hangil asked, turning to Bal. Bal's throat lights dimmed. I am familiar with all relevant sections. But not the entire document? No one has read the entire document, Bal admitted reluctantly. It is too vast. Hangil nodded. Yet you expect Earth to not only read it but implement it in 7 days. Enough. Bal slammed one of his hands on the table. What is the point of these questions, human? Hangil stood straight, his voice calm but firm. My point is simple. The code is not a set of rules to be followed. It's a tool of control. No species can follow all these rules because they contradict each other. This gives the Council the power to punish any member at any time by selectively enforcing whichever rule they've broken. The Council chamber fell completely silent. Several of the aliens looked at Bal, then at each other. That is a serious accusation, Minji said quietly. It's not an accusation, Hangil replied. It's an observation. And I believe many of you already know this is true. Bal's 4 hands clenched into fists. You have overstepped, human. This meeting is over. As the council members began to leave, Hangil spoke once more. I have a proposal, councilors. A challenge, if you will. Despite himself, Bal turned back. What challenge? Give me 3 tasks to complete while following your code. If I can complete them without violating any rules, Earth joins as a full member with the right to propose amendments to the code. If I fail, Earth will accept the code as written. The council members looked at each other. The purple-feathered alien laughed. A single human thinks he can navigate our code better than species who have lived with it for thousands of years? This will be amusing. Bal considered the offer, his throat, lights pulsing slowly as he thought. Very well, human. We accept your challenge. Return tomorrow to learn your 3 tasks. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, Minji paused next to Hangil. That was either very brave or very foolish, she said quietly. Hangil smiled slightly. In my experience, the two are often the same thing. Back in the Earth quarters, Taiho paced nervously. What happened? The meeting lasted much longer than expected. Hangil sat down calmly. I've challenged them to give me 3 tasks to complete while following their code. If I succeed, Earth gets to join with amendment rights. Ji-sun gasped. And if you fail? Then we accept their rules without question. Taiho stopped pacing. That's a huge risk. Hangil looked at the ambassador with steady eyes. It's no risk at all. Their code is so contradictory that I can justify almost any action I take. The challenge isn't following the rules, it's knowing which rules to break and how to justify breaking them. How can you be so confident? Ji-sun asked. Hangil smiled. Because I've spent 15 years dealing with military regulations. Compared to that, this galactic code is amateur work. The next morning, Hangil stood alone in the center of the council chamber. All 12 alien counselors watched him from their high seats, looking down as if they were judges and he was on trial. Chief Counselor Bal spoke first, his 4 hands moving in different patterns as he talked. Human, your challenge begins today. We have selected 3 tasks for you to complete. Each must be done while following the Galactic Code perfectly. Any violation, no matter how small, means failure. Hangil stood straight, his face calm. I understand. What are the tasks? Bal's throat lights pulsed with what seemed like amusement. First, you must attend tonight's diplomatic reception and interact with representatives from at least 10 different species. You must follow all proper social protocols for each species. The purple-feathered alien leaned forward. Some of these protocols directly contradict each other, For example, the Vex require you to maintain eye contact at all times, while the Morax consider direct eye contact for more than 3 seconds to be a grave insult. Hangil nodded. I understand. The second task? You must resolve a trade dispute between the Zor and Velton species, Bal continued. These two have been arguing over mineral rights in the Proxima system for over 200 years. 200 years? Hangil asked. Why hasn't the council resolved it already? Minji spoke up from her seat. According to the code, neither side can compromise without losing status. It is complicated. I see, Hangil said. And the third task? Bal's throat lights flashed brightly. You must conduct a complete inspection of the council's security systems. However, Section 947 of the code strictly prohibits non-council species from accessing security information. The council members laughed openly now. The task was clearly impossible. You have 7 days to complete all 3 tasks, Bal said. Do you accept these conditions? Hangil thought for a moment. I accept, with one condition of my own. I need access to the complete historical records of the code, including all previous versions and amendments. Bal seemed surprised by this request. Why? To understand the rules, I need to know how they evolved, Hangil explained. The council members looked at each other. Then Bal nodded slowly. Very well. Vice Councillor Minji will provide you with access to the historical records. Thank you, Hangil said. I'll begin right away. Back in the Earth quarters, Taiho and Ji-sun waited, anxiously. When Hangil entered, they both jumped to their feet. Well? Taiho asked. What are the tasks? Hangil explained the 3 challenges. As he spoke, Taiho's face grew more worried. These are impossible, Taiho said when Hangil finished. Especially the security inspection. It's a direct contradiction. You can't inspect something you're not allowed to access. Exactly, Hangil smiled. That's why I need to study the historical records of the code. Every rule has a history. Every rule has exceptions. Ji-sun looked confused. But even if you find exceptions, they'll just say you're interpreting things wrong. They make the final judgment. True, Hangil nodded. But I'm not trying to win by their rules. I'm trying to expose their rules for what they really are. A soft knock at the door interrupted them. When it opened, Vice Councillor Minji stood there. Sergeant Hangil, she said quietly. I've brought the historical records you requested. She handed him a small device, similar to an Earth tablet but much thinner. Thank you, Hangil said. May I ask why you're helping us? You seem different. From the other councillors. Minji looked around quickly to make sure no one else was nearby. Not all of us agree with how the council has been using the code. Some of us believe it has strayed from its original purpose. She turned to leave, then paused. The first reception starts in 6 hours. I suggest you focus on Section 1232 regarding social protocols. There might be something useful there. After she left, Taiho looked at Hangil with raised eyebrows. It seems you have an ally on the council. Maybe, Hangil said. Or maybe it's a trap. Either way, we have work to do. For the next 5 hours, Hangil read through the historical records of the code, focusing on the sections Minji had suggested. Occasionally he would nod or make notes on his own device. I think I've found something, he finally said. The original social protocol section from 3,000 years ago was only 2 pages long. Now it's over 200 pages. What changed? Ji-sun asked. Everything, Hangil said. The original rules were simple. Respect each species' customs when possible, but in cases of contradiction, follow a basic set of universal protocols. He showed them a passage from the original code. When species customs contradict, all parties shall default to Universal Protocol Alpha, which supersedes all specific customs. What's Universal Protocol Alpha? Taiho asked. That's what's interesting, Hangil said. It's been buried under thousands of amendments, but it still exists in the code. And according to the rules of the code itself, older provisions remain valid unless specifically repealed. Ji-sun looked hopeful for the first time. So you can use this at the reception tonight? Yes, Hangil nodded. But I need to memorize all the specific customs too. If I invoke Universal Protocol Alpha without first trying to follow specific customs, it could be seen as disrespectful. What about the other tasks? Taeho asked. The trade dispute and the security inspection? One step at a time, Hangil said. First, I need to survive tonight's reception. 6 hours later, Hangil entered the grand reception hall of the Harmonious Accord. The massive room sparkled with strange lights, and hundreds of aliens from dozens of species mingled, ate, drank, and talked. Hangil wore his formal Earth Defense Force uniform, clean and pressed. He carried no weapons, but his back was straight and his steps confident. As soon as he entered, many aliens turned to look at him. Some whispered to each other. Others laughed openly. The challenge was common knowledge now, and few believed the human could succeed. The first test came quickly. A tall, thin alien with skin like glass approached Hangil. According to the database Hangil had studied, this was a Vex, one of the species with contradictory social protocols. Human, the Vex said, its voice like wind through crystal. I am Supreme Delegate Zor. You honor us with your presence. Hangil maintained direct eye contact, as Vex custom required. The honor is mine, Supreme Delegate. May your light shine across the stars. The Vex seemed pleased with the traditional greeting. They talked for several minutes, with Hangil carefully following every Vex social rule. As they finished speaking, Hangil noticed another alien approaching, a short, round, being covered in soft fur. This was a Morax, who considered direct eye contact offensive. Hangil had only seconds to switch between contradictory protocols. As the Morax came closer, Hangil turned slightly so that both aliens were in his field of vision. Supreme Delegate Zor, may I introduce you to... Hangil began, but then paused. According to the code, he could not introduce two beings of different status levels without permission. The Vex and Morax stood awkwardly, neither able to speak first due to their own protocols. It was exactly the kind of impossible situation the Council had planned. Hangil took a deep breath. In accordance with Section 1232, Paragraph 7 of the original Galactic Code, I invoke Universal Protocol Alpha to facilitate this introduction. Both aliens looked shocked. The Vex's glass-like skin clouded slightly. Universal Protocol Alpha? No one has invoked that in over 1,000 years. Nevertheless, it remains valid according to the code, Hangil said calmly. Under Universal Protocol Alpha, I may introduce beings of all status levels when formal introductions would otherwise be impossible. The Vex and Morax looked at each other, then back at Hangil. He is correct, the Morax said finally. The protocol is old but still valid. For the next 2 hours, Hangil moved through the reception hall, meeting aliens from 12 different species. Whenever contradictions arose, he carefully invoked Universal Protocol Alpha. Some aliens seemed annoyed, others impressed, but none could deny that he was following the code correctly. From across the room, Hangil noticed Chief Counselor Baal watching him with all 4 eyes. Baal's throat lights were dimmed, which Hangil had learned indicated displeasure. Near the end of the reception, Vice Counselor Minji approached Hangil. Impressive, Sergeant, she said quietly. No one expected you to navigate the social protocols so perfectly. Thank you for your hint about Section 1232, Hangil replied. It was very helpful. Minji glanced around to make sure no one was listening. The trade dispute will be much harder. The Zor and Velton truly hate each other. Hate is often based on misunderstanding, Hangil said, or on rules that prevent people from solving simple problems. Minji seemed about to say more, but Chief Counselor Baal approached them. You have completed the first task, human, Baal said, his voice cold. But do not celebrate yet. The next 2 challenges will not be so easily overcome with ancient protocols. Hangil bowed slightly. I look forward to them, Chief Counselor. When do I begin the trade dispute resolution? Tomorrow morning, Baal said. And I suggest you spend the night studying sections 4,000 through 6,000 of the code. You will need them. As Baal walked away, Hangil turned to Minji. Why is he so determined? To see me fail? Minji's voice dropped to a whisper. Because if you succeed, everything changes. The code has been the source of the Council's power for thousands of years. If a human can navigate it better than they, Hangil spent most of the night studying sections 4,000 through 6,000 of the Galactic Code. These sections dealt with trade, resources, and dispute resolution, exactly what he would need for his second challenge. When morning came, Teho found Hangil still awake, making notes on his device. "Did you sleep at all?" Teho asked. Hangil shook his head. "No time for sleep, but I found something interesting." "What is it?" "The Zor and Velton dispute isn't really about mineral rights," Hangil explained. "It's about status. According to Section 4532, whichever species gives up any claim loses standing in the Council." Teho frowned. "So neither side can compromise without being seen as weak?" "Exactly. That's why the dispute has lasted 200 years. Hangil stood up and stretched. "But there's a solution hidden in the original code. Section 5019 of the earliest version deals with mutual face-saving measures." Before Hangil could explain further, there was a knock at the door. Ji-sun opened it to find a small alien with 6 thin arms. "The Council awaits Sergeant Hangil in Dispute Chamber 3, the alien said in a high-pitched voice. "The Exor and Velton representatives are already present." "I'll be right there," Hangil said. He turned to Teho. "Wish me luck." "What's your plan?" Teho asked. Hangil smiled. "I'm going to solve a 200-year dispute by doing something no one has tried before." "What's that?" "Listening to what they actually want, not what the rules say they should want." Dispute Chamber 3 was smaller than the main council room. A round table sat in the center with 3 chairs. On one side sat a Zor representative, tall and blue with a shell-like back. On the other side sat a Velton, short and green with 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern. Hangil could feel the eye-ear tension in the room. These 2 species clearly disliked each other. "I am Sergeant Hangil of Earth," he said, taking the middle seat. "I'm here to help resolve your dispute over the Proxima System mineral rights." "There is nothing to resolve," said the Zor, his voice deep and rumbling. "The minerals belong to us by right of first discovery, and they belong to us by right of adjacent territory," countered the Velton, all 4 eyes blinking rapidly. "The Proxima System borders our space." Hangil raised his hand. "Before we discuss the details, I'd like to understand what these minerals mean to each of your species. How would you use them?" Both aliens looked confused by the question. "Use them?" the Exor repeated. "They are thorium deposits. They would fuel our power plants." "And for the Velton?" Hangil asked. The Velton's 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. "The same. Our colony worlds need energy." Hangil nodded slowly. "So both species need the thorium for the same purpose. Energy production." "Yes, but there is not enough for both of us," the Zor said. "According to the survey records, there are approximately 50,000 tons of thorium in the Proxima System." Hangil said. "How much does each of your species need?" Again, the aliens seemed confused by the directness of the question. "We would require about 20,000 tons over the next 50 years, the Velton finally admitted. "And the Zor?" "About the same," the Zor said reluctantly. Hangil did some quick math. "So together, you need 40,000 tons out of the available 50,000. There's actually enough for both of you." "That is not the point," the Zor said angrily. "According to Section 4532 of the Code, whichever species relinquishes their full claim loses status in the Council, and neither of us will accept reduced status," the Velton added. Hangil nodded. "I understand. Now let me ask you both a different question. What is the main export of the Xor?" The Xor seemed surprised. "We export antimatter containment technology. We are the best in the galaxy at containing and transporting antimatter." "And the Velton?" "We export terraforming services. We can make dead worlds habitable faster than any other species." Hangil smiled. This was exactly what he'd hoped to hear. "Let me propose a solution based on Section 5019 of the original code. Mutual, face-saving measures." Both aliens leaned forward, curious. According to this section, two species in dispute may form a mutual benefit corporation without either side losing status. In fact, species that form such corporations gain special trade status with the Council. A corporation? The Velton asked. To do what? To mine and process the thorium together, Han Gil explained. The Zor would provide antimatter containment, technology to power the mining operations. The Velton would provide terraforming services to make the mining sites habitable for workers from both species. The aliens looked at each other. Such a corporation would require both species to maintain equal ownership, the Zor pointed out. Neither could claim victory. But neither would lose status, Han Gil countered. In fact, according to Section 5019, both would gain status for finding a creative solution. The room fell silent as both aliens considered the proposal. Does this Section 5019 really exist? The Velton asked finally. I have never heard of it. Han Gil showed them the relevant passage on his device. It was written into the original code but has rarely been used. However, it has never been repealed, so it remains valid law. For the next hour, they discussed the details of the potential corporation. Both sides asked tough questions, but neither rejected the idea outright. Finally, the Zor spoke. I will need to consult with my government, but I believe this solution has merit. As do I, the Velton agreed. It allows both our species to save face and gain resources. Han Gil stood up. Then I suggest we draft a preliminary agreement based on Section 5019. Once your governments approve, we can finalize it. To Han Gil's surprise, both aliens extended their appendages toward him, a sign of respect in both cultures. You have done in one day what the Council could not do in 200 years, the Velton said. How did you think of this solution? The Zor asked. Han Gil smiled. On Earth, we have a saying, rules should serve people, not the other way around. I simply looked for rules that served both your people's needs. When Han Gil returned to the Earth quarters, Tai Ho and Jisun were waiting anxiously. Well? Tai Ho asked. How did it go? Both sides have agreed to a preliminary solution, Han Gil said, dropping into a chair. They're forming a joint corporation, based on Section 5019 of the original code. Tai Ho looked shocked. You actually solved a 200-year dispute in one day? The solution was always there, Han Gil said. They just needed someone who wasn't caught up in the rules to see it. Jisun smiled. That's 2 tasks completed. Only the security inspection remains. Han Gil's face grew serious. And that will be the hardest. I'm not allowed to access security information, yet I have to inspect the security systems. It's a direct contradiction, Tai Ho said. There must be a loophole somewhere. There is, Han Gil nodded, but using it will be risky. I'll need your help, Ambassador. Before he could explain further, his device buzzed with a message. It was from Chief Counselor Baal. The Council is impressed by your resolution of the Zor Velton dispute, the message read. However, your final task will begin tomorrow. I suggest you prepare for failure, human. No non-Council species has ever been permitted to access our security systems. Han Gil showed the message to Tai Ho and Jisun. He sounds worried, Jisun observed. He should be, Han Gil said, because tomorrow, we're going to change how the entire Council thinks about their own rules. Tai Ho looked concerned. How can we do that? By showing them what the rules were originally meant to do, Han Gil explained. The original code wasn't meant to control people. It was meant to help them work together. Somewhere along the way, they forgot that. That night, as Han Gil finally slept, Vice Counselor Minji visited the Earth quarters. When Tai Ho opened the door, she quickly handed him a small device. This contains the complete layout of the Council's security systems, she whispered. Han Gil will need it tomorrow. Why are you helping us? Tai Ho asked. Minji's eyes looked sad. Because the Council has forgotten what the code was created for. It was meant to bring species together, not keep them apart. Your sergeant seems to understand that better than those who have lived with it for thousands of years. As she turned to leave, she added, many of the younger Council members are watching this challenge with hope. If Han Gil succeeds, everything could change. After she left, Tai Ho looked at the small device in his hand. Tomorrow would determine not just Earth's fate, but perhaps the future of the entire Galactic Council. Morning came too quickly. Hangil, Taiho, and Jisun spent hours reviewing the information Minji had provided about the Council's security systems. The challenge seemed impossible. Hangil had to inspect these systems without accessing any security information, which was clearly a contradiction. "I think I have a plan," Hangil said as they prepared to leave, "but it depends on a very specific reading of Section 947. "The one that prohibits non-council species from accessing security information?" Taiho asked. Hangil nodded. "The exact wording is important. It says no non-council species can access security information, but it doesn't say a council observer can't access it." Taiho's eyes widened. "And as Earth's ambassador, I have temporary observer status." "Exactly," Hangil smiled. "You can access the information while I conduct the physical inspection of the security systems." Jisun looked worried. "But won't they say that's cheating?" "Not according to the code," Hangil explained. "Section 4 of the original code states that inspection duties may be divided among qualified personnel. As long as each person only does what they're allowed to do, we're following the rules." "It's a clever interpretation," Taiho said. "But will the council accept it?" Hangil's face grew serious. "They have to if they follow their own rules, and that's the whole point of this challenge, to show them what their rules actually mean." The security control center of the Harmonious Accord was a large room filled with strange devices and glowing screens. Chief Counselor Bao stood at the entrance with several other council members, including Minji. "Welcome to your final failure, human," Bao said, his throat lights pulsing with amusement. "Your task is to conduct a complete inspection of our security systems. However, as you know, Section 947 prohibits you from accessing any security information." Hangil bowed slightly. "I understand the challenge, Chief Counselor. I would like to introduce Ambassador Taiho, who will assist me today." Bao's 4 eyes narrowed. "The challenge is for you alone, Sergeant. With respect, the challenge is to complete an inspection while following the code," Hangil countered. "Section 4 of the original code states that inspection duties may be divided among qualified personnel. Ambassador Taiho has council observer status and is therefore qualified to access security information." The council members looked at each other in surprise. Bao's throat lights flashed rapidly. This is not what we intended," he sputtered. "But it is what the code allows," Minji said quietly. "The human is correct." Bao glared at Minji, then at Hangil. "Very well. Proceed with your inspection. But remember, any violation of the code means immediate failure." Hangil nodded. "I understand. We'll begin with the physical security systems first." For the next 3 hours, Hangil and Taiho worked together as a perfect team. Hangil inspected the physical components of the security system: cameras, sensors, shields, and barriers, while Taiho reviewed the information systems, sharing only general observations with Hangil, never specific security data. As they worked, Hangil began to notice something concerning. "Ambassador, could you check the maintenance logs for the shield generators in Section 12? Taiho checked the relevant logs. "They haven't been serviced in 3 years. Hangil frowned. "That's well beyond the recommended maintenance interval. Check Sections 14 and 15 as well." "Also overdue," Taiho reported. "In fact, most of the security systems haven't been properly maintained in years." The council members watching the inspection began to look uncomfortable. Minji moved closer to Hangil. "What are you finding?" she asked quietly. "Your security systems are dangerously out of date," Hangil replied. "According to your own maintenance standards, most of these systems should have been serviced or replaced years ago." Minji looked troubled. "How could this happen?" "I have a theory," Hangil said. "The code has become so complex that everyone is focused on following rules rather than solving problems. Your maintenance teams probably file all the correct paperwork while doing none of the actual work." As the inspection continued, Hangil discovered more and more problems. emergency systems that didn't work, backup generators with no fuel, security protocols that contradicted each other. Finally, Hangil and Taiho completed their inspection. The council members gathered to hear their report. Your security systems are in dangerous condition, Hangil began bluntly. Over 60% of your critical systems have maintenance issues. In a real emergency, many of them would fail. Bal's throat lights dimmed. That cannot be true. We follow all required maintenance procedures as outlined in sections 2000 through 2500 of the code. You follow the paperwork requirements, Hangil corrected, but the actual maintenance isn't being done. Your own logs confirm this. Taiho displayed several maintenance records on a large screen. According to these records, maintenance was completed on systems that our inspection found to be non-functional. Someone is falsifying these reports. A heavy silence fell over the room. Many council members looked at Bal, whose 4 hands were clenched into fists. This is outrageous, Bal finally said. You have overstepped your authority, human. No, Hangil said firmly. I have completed the task you assigned me. I have conducted a thorough inspection of your security systems while following the code perfectly. The fact that I found serious problems is not my fault. Minji stepped forward. Sergeant Hangil is right. He has completed all 3 tasks successfully. According to the terms of the challenge, Earth should be admitted to the Council with full amendment privileges. Bal's throat lights flashed angrily. This is not what we agreed to. The human has twisted our rules to serve his own purposes. Hangil looked directly at Bal. No, Counselor. I have followed your rules exactly as they were written. The problem is that you've forgotten what those rules were for. He walked to the center of the room so everyone could see him. The original Galactic code was only 50 pages long, Hangil said. I found a copy in the historical records. It was simple, clear, and focused on one goal: helping different species work together peacefully. He displayed the first page of the original code on the screen. The purpose of this code is to foster understanding and cooperation among all sentient species. These rules exist to serve life, not to control it. The council members stared at the screen. Many looked shocked, as if seeing these words for the first time. Over thousands of years, you've added so many rules and exceptions and amendments that you've lost sight of the original purpose, Hangil continued. The code was meant to be a tool to help people. Instead, it's become a cage that traps them. Minji moved to stand beside Hangil. He's right. I've studied the early history of the Council. The code was never meant to be used as a weapon or a tool of control. One by one, other council members began to nod in agreement. Even some of the older members looked thoughtful. Bal stood alone, his throat lights dim. What would you have us do? Throw away thousands of years of legal wisdom? No, Hangil said. I would have you remember why those laws were created in the first place. Laws should serve people, not the other way around. He turned to face all the council members. Earth respectfully requests admission to the council, with the right to propose a simplified version of the code based on its original principles. The council chamber fell silent as members looked at each other. Finally, Minji spoke. I vote to accept Earth's admission and their proposal to reform the code. Slowly, other council members began to voice their agreement. Even the purple-feathered alien who had mocked Taiho at the first meeting raised a wing in support. Bal watched as one by one his council turned against him. Finally, he raised 2 of his 4 hands in surrender. Very well, he said. Earth is admitted to the council with amendment privileges. Sergeant Hangil will lead a committee to reform the code. Hangil bowed respectfully. Thank you, Chief Counselor. I promise that the reformed code will honor the wisdom of the past while serving the needs of the present. Later, as Hangil and Taiho prepared to return to Earth with the good news, Minji came to say goodbye. You've changed everything, she said. Already, other species are questioning rules they've blindly followed for centuries. It's like a fresh wind blowing through a dusty room, Taiho smiled. All because the council made the mistake of laughing at our questions. How did you do it? Minji asked Hangil. How did you master our code so quickly? Hangil smiled. Military regulations, diplomatic protocols, alien codes, they're all written by people who never have to follow them. Once you understand that, you can find the way through. As their ship departed from the Harmonious Accord, Tejo looked out at the stars. So what now? Now we help write new rules, Hangil said. Rules that make sense. Rules that help people rather than control them. Jisun laughed. And all because they laughed at our rules until a human marine explained what rules are really for. As the Earthship accelerated toward home, news of the human victory spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had suffered under the weight of impossible regulations began to hope for change. The era of blind compliance was ending, and a new age of true cooperation was beginning. All because one human had the courage to question the rules and the wisdom to understand their true purpose.